Well, pretty obviously, someone had to ask me about the hottest new 30 caliber cartridge out there. It's the 300 PRC. And he asked me what I could tell him about it and to think what I want to tell him. And all the rest of you is stay away. Unless... So the big unless with the 300 PRC has to do with how far you want to shoot and why. Hey, let's compare this new 30 to the good old standard, the 300 Winchester Magnum, because they look awfully similar. Look at this. Here they are. Can you tell which one's which? This is the good old 300 Winchester Magnum. Been around since 1963, and it is known as one of the best all-around hunting cartridges in the world. And it's also won a lot of long-range shooting competitions. It's been used as a sniping rifle in the military. Pretty well-known cartridge. Why do we need another one? Well, we've got a lot of 30s these days. Everything from the 300 WSM, which is the short, fat one that I think is going to stay around. It just about does the same thing that the 300 Winchester Magnum does. But also the 300 Remington Ultra Magnum. Look at how big that thing is. That's even bigger than the PRC. And then there's the 378 Weatherby. I mean, there's plenty of them out there, but these two are getting to be sort of in the middle of the pack these days, believe it or not. Of course, it all started with the 30-06, and I've dragged it out here just so you can compare the size differences. Obviously, it's a lot narrower powder column in it. These two are actually fitting in the same length actions, though. They're both at 3.34 inches total length. That's your maximum cartridge length. So the nice thing about the 300 Win Mag is it fits in most of your standard length action rifles. But you look at this PRC and you say there's something a little bit different about that guy, and that's that length. That is the same length, actually a trifle longer than the standard 375 H&H, which started the whole belted Magnum craze. That is considered to be a full Magnum length action. So it's probably not going to fit into the standard actions like the 300 Win Mag does. This one was merely the 375 base case. They probably started with the 300 H&H Magnum, but they just necked that down, shortened it up a little bit to make this so you've got the belted case. Look at that PRC, no belt. So that's one of its strong selling points. So what Hornady did, and Hornady came up with this one. They're coming out with all these hot new cartridges designed for precision shooting, and that's why they call it a PRC, Precision Rifle Cartridge. They've got the 6.5 PRC and now this one, and they're really catering to the long-range target shooters. And I think that's what pretty much sums up the PRC. It is optimally designed for long-range target shooting, not necessarily hunting. Certainly doesn't mean you can't use it for that, but there are some drawbacks, and that's why I'm saying, warning, stay away unless you want to do long-range target shooting. Yeah, you can use it for hunting, but there are some drawbacks that we will cover when we go through both of these. So, the PRC came out in 2018. And boy, it got a lot of attention immediately because, you know, in this day and age, everyone is interested in long-range steel target shooting. It's a lot of fun, and it really helps you become an incredible shot at closer distances. So if you're looking to have some fun reaching way out there, this is one that's going to do it. So the idea that they had over at Hornady was to create sort of the ultimate 300 for that kind of long-range shooting. Naturally, that means you want the really long, heavy, high BC bullets with the long ogive on the nose, what you're looking at right here. I didn't even look what this one is. It's probably a 220 grain. This is the 212 grain ELDX bullet. That's their hunting bullet. But they also have 220 grain bullets, and there are some manufacturers now coming out with 250 grain bullets. So that was the general idea. Somewhere in that 220 grain bullet range, they were going to have the ultimate long-range 30 caliber. So one of the things they did was not only did they get rid of the belt, but they went to the full case diameter. Both of these have a head diameter, or rim diameter, I should say, of 0.532. But because of the belt, the 300 Win Mag steps down in the body to 0.513. The PRC stays at 5.32, and there it gets extra powder capacity. And as you can see, it's a little bit shorter because that 30-degree angled shoulder has been pushed back a little bit in comparison to the 300 Win Mag, which has a 25-degree shoulder. But you've got a longer neck, and then, of course, that long bullet. Now, why the bullet stretches out this far on this one has to do, of course, with the necessity of having a longer chamber to fit it in that long of a bullet without pushing the bullet down into the powder supply. So that's where they optimize it. I would imagine that this bullet's full length is just coming to where the start of the neck is at the shoulder junction. One of the problems you get with loading, say, the 300 Win Mag with these long bullets seated deeper, yes, you take up a little bit of powder capacity. I don't think that's a huge problem. But if you're a hand loader, and you generally have to be to throw these really long bullets into a 300 Win Mag, most places aren't going to do it. In the factory ammunition, one of the concerns, of course, is the twist rate stabilization issue. We'll get to that in a bit. But if the hand loaders could easily do it, there's no reason why you can't stick a 220 grain long ogive bullet like this in that 300 Win Mag, but you will have to seat it past that neck joint. And what happens on hand loads when you shoot and load and shoot and load and you're resizing that brass, it builds up a little lip called a donut inside at that junction of the neck and shoulder. And that is an obstruction which creates more tension when you seat your bullets, when you have to go past that. You get away from that if you don't have to seat your bullets that deeply. One of the little features that benefits you in that PRC. And of course, the other thing is how this bullet is going to fit in the throat of your chamber. Again, as you look at the length of these two, boy, they're not very far off, so they're probably going to fit in the same chamber. But because of that long bullet, you've got to have a longer magazine to hold it, same as the full magnum length magazine for the 375 H&H. But then there's the bullet itself fitting into the barrel where the throat runs up into the rifling. That's called the lead, L-E-A-D-E, the lead. And they made that extra long, obviously, to fit that bullet so that it's not touching the lands when it's that long. I mean, you're going to have a problem with your 300 Win Mag sticking a long bullet like that in there because that was not originally designed to have those long leads or long throats. If you're familiar at all with Weatherby cartridges, they're famous for having long throats. And I think the biggest reason Weatherby did that back in the day was just to reduce pressures. When you initially set off that round, the pressures will spike when that bullet hits the rifling because there's suddenly all that friction. So he gave it a little running room. That's not why they're doing it here. They're doing it here for precision bullet alignment with the bore. The idea is to have this seated just about kissing the actual rifling where it touches the lands. So if you can seat your bullet out that far and just be touching them, then you can get consistency not only in the pressures, but in the alignment of the bullet with the bore. And something you're probably not going to hear about, and you're certainly not going to notice it, is that the SAMI specs on the chamber throat dimensions on the 300 Win Mag start off at 0.315 diameter. Now that's in inches. But the bullet is only 0.308. What does that tell you? There's a little bit of slop in there. That's great for keeping your pressures down and making sure everybody's bullet and everybody's load fits nicely. With this one, they have gone directly to a 0.308 inch diameter. So when the bullet is in that throat, it's essentially just touching the sides and there's no wobble room in there. The idea is that that bullet will now start perfectly straight from the throat into the lands, into the barrel, and you don't get any wobbling or wiggle of the bullet so that it slams into the rifling a little bit crooked and potentially damages it. It's a tiny little difference, but it makes a significant difference when you're looking at precision shooting at extreme ranges. That's kind of the whole idea behind that PRC. They want a precise target round. So if you're a hunter, do you want to go to the PRC? One of the arguments is if you don't already have a 300 and you want one, and you like to do long-range steel shooting at 1,000 and even 2,000 yards, get the PRC because that's going to do it. And then if you want to go hunting, no problem. Take it hunting. Whereas with the 300 Win Mag, yeah, you've got more problem reaching out. Great hunting round, but you're not going to be easily loading up those 200, 225, 250 grain long high BC bullets in it for the target shooting. So there's your major difference. I think that's what you need to concentrate on when you're buying the rifle. The standard twist rate on this one is 8.5. So every 8.5 inches of barrel, you're going to get a complete revolution of your bullet. That's stabilizing those really long bullets. A little bit more problem with the 300 Win Mag is standard at 1 in 10. You might find some rifles that are chambered 1 in 9 twists or barreled 1 in 9 twists, but yeah, you're going to have probably some stability issues with those longer bullets out of the 300. Once again, accuracy is not going to be quite as good. So what about the actual performance? Well, as I look at these, I go, there's a little more length in the chamber on the 300 Win Mag, but it doesn't have quite the same width. So what's the difference in powder? Boy, you can ask some sites, what is the water capacity of these two? I've never liked water capacity measurements because different brass from different companies can be thicker or thinner. They can have a little thicker head at the base too. So it reduces the actual volume internally. In general, you're going to find that when you're loading up powders, you're probably going to get 2 to 3 grains less powder in the Win Mag. But once again, it depends on the case that you're actually using. The upshot is when I looked up some hand loading data on these and compared, they were awfully close across the board. So I went with a 220 grain Hornady ELDX bullet, and I found that the BC on that was 0.654, which is really high, and that's of course what you're looking for to minimize your wind deflection downrange. So I found some loads, and we were able to come up with 2,850 feet per second out of the Win Mag with that bullet. Same bullet out of the PRC was going a little bit faster, but not much, 2,875 feet per second. So you can see that they're almost identical in their velocities, and that's going to give us almost the same trajectories. Look at our chart here. I set them both up for a maximum point blank range 0 on a 6-inch target. And that means that we zero each of them at 250 yards. What are the results? Well, at 300 yards, our drop is 3.6 inches out of the Win Mag, 3.5 inches out of the PRC. The deflection in the wind, 4.5 inches out of both of them. That's in a 10-mile-an-hour right angle wind. And the energy retained is, right close. You get a little more because you're pushing that another, 25 feet per second faster out of the PRC. So it's 2908 foot-pounds of energy out of 300 Win Mag, 2963 out of the PRC. Nobody's going to notice the difference. Then you see your 500 yards. You're starting to spread it out a little bit more, but really not much. Your drops are only a half-inch difference, not even quite that. The energies are still pretty darn close. So let's go out to that long range that this PRC was designed for, 1,000 yards. At 1,000 yards, you're getting 253 inches of drop out of the 300 Win Mag. You're getting 248 out of the PRC. So you can see there's a subtle difference there that might start to pay off. Hello, Covey. Covey came up. You're getting to be a real ham, you know what? Every time I'm up here doing this, you suddenly come up. The rest of the day when I'm typing, no, you don't come up. Can't explain that. Just wants to be on TV. Yeah, good girl. Where were we? 250. Yeah, so you've got a good 5 inches difference in drop. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're a target shooter at 1,000 yards, that could spell the difference between win and lose. So I think that's where your PRC is really a benefit. And the energy, 1288 out of the Win Mag, 1316 out of the PRC. Again, I don't think a deer or even an elk is going to notice the difference on that one. So, what else can I tell you about that PRC? The case actually came from the 375 Ruger. They took that case and necked it down. I don't know if they stretched it a little bit longer or not. I didn't even check on that. This thing is a total of 3.7 inches cartridge overall length. The 375 H&H is only at 3.6, so this is even a little bit longer than that full-length Magnum. That was a little interesting for me to discover that. We talked about the throat. Essentially, we're just talking the difference between maximizing a target cartridge rather than a hunting cartridge. So if you're a hunter, what are some of the pros and cons you can look at? I would say a stack of the pros for the old 300 Win Mag is simply the availability of rifles and cartridges. Everyone loads ammo for it. I mean, just look at this little stack here I pulled out. You've got all kinds of brands, and they offer loads from 150 grains up into the 200s. I don't keep track of everything that's out there, but just because it's been around for so long, you're going to find a lot of ammunition. And that suggests a lot of competition and good pricing as well. With the PRC, I hope you like Hornady, because the only other brand I've seen that loads it so far, it's Federal. But if it hangs around, I think more and more will start to load it. And of course, you can always go to your custom loaders or do it yourself, obviously. And that brings up another point. If you're not a hand loader and you want to shoot precisely between these two, I would go with the PRC for any long-range target work. Because Hornady designed it for target shooting, they're building their ammunition for extreme precision with the right bullets for the game. And people who are making rifles for this are generally interested in that kind of accuracy too. So they're, I would say, making match grade chambers. You've already got that tighter throat at 308 instead of 315. So I think there's your benefits on that one. But as a hand loader, of course, you can step down and have a more viable hunting cartridge. Don't expect to go out and find a 150 grain or 180 grain load. You might find some 190s because there's some pretty good hunting bullets at 190 grain with high BCs. I would imagine they're loading some of those, but it's generally set up for target shooting, guys. Recoil, there's not enough difference. There's maybe 2 to 3 foot-pounds difference because of the different load, and that depends on the load you're building. You may end up with more power coming out of the 300 Win Mag, and that would give you more recoil in the same weight rifle. So I wouldn't even worry about recoil. We've already looked at the trajectory differences, and they don't amount to much. So yeah, I think for a hunting cartridge, you want to stick with that 300 Win Mag. But for targets, you're definitely going to have an advantage out of that PRC. It might not sound like much, but once again, targets, you can win by a half inch. If you shoot a half inch tighter than the next guy, you've won the game. You're not going to worry about that on an elk. Barrel life, some guys suggest that thing's going to burn your barrels out. I mean, look at the powder. There's not that much difference. 2-3 grains of powder, you're not going to have a hotter burn coming out of that PRC to burn your throat out any faster than the 300. So I don't think that even counts. And again, in a hunting cartridge, I certainly wouldn't worry about it. But if you're going to be shooting 200-300 rounds in a weekend on targets, you're going to burn your barrel up pretty fast with either one of those. So one of the things you do get out of the PRC, bragging rights. I've got the latest and greatest, and a lot of guys enjoy that. I used to do the same thing, man. When a hot new cartridge came out, I wanted to be kind of the first kid on the block to have one. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, or just enjoy working with a new chambering, this is one that you probably want to play around with. There are more powerful and faster 300s. There are more efficient ones like the good old 30-06 or the 308. There are short, convenient, good hunting rounds, which I consider the WSM to be. But if you want kind of something that's going to do everything, including win your target competitions, PRC might be one you want to look at. So that's pretty much the story on this. If you are interested in it, I invite you to check it out and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. That always helps us out. We invite everybody to join us on Patreon. Boy, our patrons are really helping out, and one of them suggested this topic. We usually go to our patrons for suggestions on what they'd like to see us cover. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate the support. And if you want to see more in-depth videos on guns, ammo, hunting, shooting, ballistics, gunsmithing, and all the rest of it that we can't necessarily show on the public channels, subscribe to RonSpomerOutdoorTV.com. Just go to my website, RonSpomerOutdoors.com, and you'll see it on there. Click on it and get you signed up. You can get all of the videos that we've put on there. They are always available, so just click on them and enjoy them and let me know if I did it right or wrong. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.